I saw it before the coffee even cooled. There she was, my wife of 11 years, plastered across my screen, arms draped over some smirking guy in a Hilton ballroom, like they were prom royalty. Caption: my real partner, 2 hearts, #work husband. Cute. Real subtle. My thumb froze mid-scroll. The dog let out a sleepy grunt from his spot on the rug, completely unaware that the foundation of our marriage had just cracked wide open in a flood of emojis. I didn't react. I didn't scream, didn't hurl the mug into the wall like some Lifetime character. I stared. I took it all in. The dozens of heart emojis. The comments. You two are adorable. Finally, a couple that makes sense face with tears of joy. Her coworker Mindy even chimed in with a little flame emoji, classy. Then, like someone flipping a switch inside me, I stood up, walked to the drawer, pulled out the envelope I'd been holding onto for months, just in case. Divorce papers. Signed, dated, stamped. No games, no bluff. Just facts. I placed it on the dining table, perfectly centered. Then I walked back outside, hedge clippers in hand, and started trimming the boxwoods like nothing happened. Let me pause here for just 1 second. If you've ever been through something like this, if you've ever had that moment where reality punches you square in the chest while you're still in your pajamas, take a breath. And if you're still listening and not subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. It keeps the team grinding late into the night, turning stories like this into the best revenge coffee you'll ever sip. Anyway, I didn't hear from her until evening, but I already knew how she'd spin it. She's always had this tone, the one that turns any accusation into my fault, like she's performing for an imaginary jury of dim-witted strangers. But the thing is, this time she posted the evidence herself. This wasn't me catching a text message or overhearing a call. This was her broadcasting it, like some narcissist who forgot she had a husband who scrolls LinkedIn in the mornings. The post had been up for 8 hours. 8. That meant she had seen the likes. She had engaged with the comments. She had even replied with a smiling face with hearts, couldn't do it without you. LOL, under his comment. My forever conference buddy. My stomach didn't twist. It calcified. The thing that really ticked me off wasn't even the post. It was the ease. The comfort. The way she looked at him in that photo like he got her. I've seen that face before. Just never pointed at me. She didn't even notice that I'd commented. Not at first. My message was tucked quietly among the sea of digital giggles. The divorce papers are on the table. No caps. No emojis. Just that. At 4:42 p.m., she liked a meme about weekend vibes. At 5:03 p.m., the first missed call from her lit up my screen. But I didn't answer. I was busy pressure washing the driveway. Cold water. Loud. Cleansing. By the time dusk rolled in, I'd already made 3 decisions. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to warn her. And I sure as hell wasn't going to play therapist for a woman who hashtags her infidelity like it's team building. That night, I watched her post go mysteriously quiet. Commenting disabled. Caption changed. But the screenshots were already backed up in 3 locations. Timestamped. Annotated. Archived like a war crime. She had no idea what that post would set in motion. She thought I'd pout. Maybe bark. Then cool off after a beer and a bad night of sleep. She forgot who I was. Or maybe she never really knew. But she was about to learn. There are some men who don't yell. They plan. Her face filled the screen, slightly pixelated from hotel Wi-Fi, but her grin was crystal clear. Okay, seriously, you're not mad? Are you? She giggled, clutching a glass of wine like it was part of her brand. Behind her, the beige curtain of yet another Marriott suite fluttered from the ARC. Babe, it was a joke. Everyone has a work husband. It's like a thing. I just stared at her. Calm. Silent. The way a rattlesnake watches a curious squirrel. She kept going. Come on, you've got work friends too. It's literally just a funny caption. People post stuff like that all the time. You know how Mindy is. She dared me to write it. That name again. Mindy. The office cheerleader with 3 failed marriages and a TikTok about her manifestation jar. If Mindy told her to jump off a balcony for engagement metrics, she'd probably do it with a hashtag and a filter. I sipped water and said nothing. She noticed. Her smile faltered. Hey, hello? You're being weird. Are you okay? I finally said. I'm actually glad you framed it that way. Her eyes narrowed slightly, still trying to read me. What way? That it's just a joke. Because now it's public. She blinked. What's public? Silence. Just the gentle hum of her HVAC and the sound of me ending the call. That's when the game changed. The first call back came 30 seconds later. I declined. The second one came a minute after that, this time audio only. Ignored. By the fourth, she started texting. I don't understand why you're being like this. It's a post. People do worse every day. You're overreacting. Stop being dramatic. Call me. I muted my phone. Finished folding laundry. Ate leftover Thai food. Watched an old episode of Frasier. Nothing extravagant. Just a peaceful, intentional evening. The kind of quiet she always claimed she needed more of, yet somehow always polluted with her manic energy. By 10:42 p.m., I'd racked up 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and 1 voice note she probably didn't mean to send. A shuffle. A muttered, "He's acting damn crazy." Then, softly, someone in the background, male voice, saying he saw it. That one got saved. She thought the silence was the storm. But the silence was just the eye. The calm between the tectonic shift and the tsunami. Because what she didn't know, what her brain, so used to passive forgiveness and delayed consequences, couldn't yet process, was that I wanted her to panic. Not apologize. Not make amends. Panic. That post had revealed more than her lack of respect. It revealed a woman who believed she was invincible, untouchable. She thought she could humiliate me in pixels and get away with it in prose. She assumed I'd swallow it like every other time she flirted too loudly, drank too much, crossed invisible lines with just enough plausible deniability. Not this time. That night, I removed her access to 2 of our joint savings accounts. Not permanently yet, just enough to rattle the cage. I flagged our vacation credit card for fraud and froze it. Petty? Maybe. But calculated. She wouldn't notice until checkout. And when she did, I wanted her to wonder. Wonder what I'd done, what I was planning, who I'd spoken to, and above all, how much I knew. I wrote the email at 6:13 a.m., just after taking the dog out and before the sprinklers kicked on. Cool air. Steady hands. Not a shred of doubt. The subject line was polite. Professional. Corporate essay with a twist of venom. Potential PR risk from recent employee behavior. No fluff. No ranting. Just 1 paragraph of objective language, like I was filing a quarterly report instead of lighting a fuse. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to bring attention to a recent social media post made publicly by one of your employees, Jane, redacted, while representing your firm at an industry event. Attached is the post in question, along with the associated public commentary. She was busy deleting comments, changing captions, tweaking privacy settings. Like dragging sandbags to stop a flood that had already gutted the house. Her online cleanup was frantic, but cosmetic, digital duct tape over a cracked foundation. What she didn't know was that the real demolition had already started. At 7:42 a.m., I walked into my bank with a folder of documents and a faint smile. The manager, Linda, who'd known us both for years, greeted me with a slightly raised eyebrow when I said I needed to move funds. Personal trust, I said, sliding the folder across. Sole beneficiary. Time sensitive. I didn't flinch when she asked. Joint funds? No, I replied. All mine. Inheritance from my mother. Never commingled. She nodded. Paperwork began. Meanwhile, Jane was somewhere in a hotel bathroom, tapping furiously at her phone, trying to hide story from husband, on Instagram like that feature could undo what she'd already broadcast to the world. She hadn't yet seen her post trending on Reddit, thanks to a very active thread titled, "When Your Work Wife Gets Too Comfortable." Next stop, the real estate attorney. We'd bought the lake house 5 years ago. Correction, I bought it. She contributed exactly nothing, financially, emotionally, or practically. I mowed the damn lawn. I replaced the leaky roof. She, on the other hand, had spent precisely 2 summers there, both times complaining the Wi-Fi wasn't fast enough for her client check-ins. She loved telling people about the place, though. Called it our retreat. Posted filtered pics of sunsets like she was the one who negotiated the closing. My lawyer, Shelley, Shark and Flats, pulled up the deed. We can reassign title within the week, she said. You want her off clean, or just remove survivorship rights? Off clean, I replied. And I want a clause preventing future claims. Shelley smiled. Done. By noon, I was back in my home office, calm as a monk, flipping through tax files. That's when I called the accountant, the one we both used. the one she assumed was neutral. "Hey, Doug," I said. "Listen, I'm moving to individual representation. I've already spoken to someone else, so no offense, but I prefer my financial matters be handled independently going forward. Also, if Jane contacts you, please direct her to her own advisor." Doug hesitated. "Everything okay?" "Everything's being clarified," I said. By the end of that day, my name stood alone on the cabin deed. My mother's money was sealed away in a trust only I could touch, and the message came at 6:11 p.m. An unknown number. No greeting. No preamble. Just a single line. "I thought you should know. This wasn't the first time." I stared at the screen. The text was followed by 3 attachments. Low-res photos taken from a distance, grainy but unmistakable. Jane, in a red blouse I'd seen before, entering a hotel room. Not her room. His. The work husband. 2 conference lanyards hanging from her wrist like trophies. Timestamped. Dated. 3 different events. 3 different cities. Always the same 2 names at check-in. Always a single room. Then came the final file, a PDF. A hotel invoice from last month's event. 2 guests, 1 room, for nights. The room had a king bed, and a bottle of champagne billed to the room on the first night. Under additional notes, anniversary upgrade requested. Anniversary. They'd checked in as a couple. The message ended with, "She says it's a joke. That everyone does it. We're not all laughing." No name. No return address. Just a voice from inside her camp finally reaching over the wire. A crack in her shield. And that's the thing about office culture. Beneath the performative loyalty, people are always watching. Always storing receipts. And when the tide turns, they don't just jump ship, they light it on fire for warmth on the way down. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Because 37 minutes later, a very different message hit a very different inbox. One at the corporate level. Subject line, emergency all hands, mandatory attendance. 9 a.m. tomorrow. The email came from the CEO's assistant. Short, dry, urgent. Internally, I knew what was happening. Damage control. HR had flagged it. Legal had reviewed it. Someone had started making calls. And whatever skeletons Jane thought she'd buried beneath spreadsheets and team-building PowerPoints were now banging on the walls of the boardroom. And she had no clue. She was still texting me variations of, "We need to talk," while trying to scrub every trace of her Instagram like it was bleach that could erase intent. She still thought the worst was over. But inside her company, behind soundproof doors and frosted glass, the decision-makers had already moved to tree off. Not for her, but for them. Reputation comes first. Always. And Jane had become a liability with a profile picture. I sat on the couch that night, flipping through the photos again. I remembered the blouse. She'd worn it on our anniversary 3 years ago. Swore she bought it for me. Then I noticed something. In one of the pictures, Phoenix, last November, there was a small conference banner on the wall. Behind them, a branded backdrop read, "Integrity, Vision, Trust." I almost laughed. She was smiling beneath those words, hand on his chest, while some innocent employee captured the shot thinking it'd make for good internal comms. Instead, it would soon become Exhibit A. I closed the laptop and poured a drink. Not to celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. But to mark a moment. One I'd remember clearly when the storm finally touched down. And I knew it was coming. Because when a CEO calls an all-hands meeting with less than 24 hours notice, it's never about synergy or Q3 forecasts. It's a reckoning. One with slides. One with silence. One where names get dragged into daylight, without warning. And Jane was about to walk into it blind. She wore navy. Blazer, slacks, blouse buttoned too high like that could somehow restore her image. Her heels clicked with rehearsed confidence as she walked into the conference room, iced coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She was already mid-text when the door closed behind her. The room was packed. More people than usual for a mid-quarter budget sync. Directors, managers, even 2 of the partners, people who hadn't shown up to an all-hands in months. That should have been the first red flag. The second? No donuts. No coffee station. Just silence, murmurs, and too many eyes that refused to make contact. She took her usual seat, smiled at a few coworkers. No one smiled back. At 9:03 a.m., the CEO walked in. Alone. No HR rep, no chief of staff, no finance lead. He didn't sit. Just walked to the front, remote in hand, jaw tight. "Before we begin, he said, voice calm but sharp enough to cut paper. I want to address something that's come to our attention regarding professionalism, ethics, and the values this firm was built on. Jane froze. Her fingers still hovered over her phone. The projector beeped to life behind him. White screen. Company logo. Then it changed. A photo. Her photo. Her, wrapped around her colleague in that Hilton ballroom. Caption and all. My real partner, 2 hearts, #workhusband. And just below it, like a bullet under glass. The divorce papers are on the table. A few people gasped. One person coughed awkwardly. Most just sat, dead still, eyes locked forward like they were watching someone walk off a cliff in slow motion. Jane's mouth parted. Wah, but she didn't get far. The next slide appeared. Chat logs. Private Slack messages, excerpted and enlarged. Quotations. Inside jokes that didn't sound so innocent out of context. One even ended with, room 326 again? Winking face. Then came the hotel receipts. Side by side. 3 different cities. Same room number, same check-in times. King bed, 1 guest name, 1+1. Champagne add-ons. Upgraded turn-down service. Jane's voice cracked, barely audible. This isn't what it looks like. But no one responded. Not even work husband, who sat 4 seats away with the pallor of a man awaiting a firing squad. The CEO didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just said, this company deals in legal compliance, contractual ethics, and fiduciary trust. When our employees present themselves, especially at public events, as representatives of this firm, we expect them to conduct themselves accordingly. What you post, what you do, what you suggest matters. He paused. There are consequences. Then he set the remote down and walked out. Just like that. No questions. No elaboration. Just dropped the bomb and left the room in ruin. Jane sat frozen, blinking too fast. Her hand trembled slightly. Her mouth opened once, then closed again. Nobody said anything. Nobody had to. The air was scorched. Her coworker Mindy stood and left first, head down. One by one, others followed, quiet, quick, like they didn't want to catch whatever shame she was radiating. Work husband avoided her gaze entirely. By the time she stood up, she looked smaller, paler, unsteady. She exited without finishing her coffee. The firm didn't fire her. They didn't have to. What they did was worse. They left her in place. Let her twist. Let her exist in the awkward limbo between disgrace and dismissal. Let her rot quietly in her own silence. Still employed, but socially exiled. A professional ghost with a nameplate. And outside the office, in the real world, her husband wasn't answering her texts. He was at home, digging a shallow trench along the back fence to run irrigation. He didn't watch the live corporate implosion, but he did get a LinkedIn notification. Your ex-wife's coworker has endorsed you for strategic planning. Monday morning, her badge still worked. No email warning. No pink slip. Just a calendar notification with the subject line. New departmental alignment. Effective immediately. She was moved to client onboarding oversight, which, in practice, meant an empty desk in the far wing of the building, by the copier and across from the fire extinguisher. Her team? Gone. Her client list? Reassigned. Her access to the CRM platform? Temporarily suspended due to restructuring. The company didn't strip her of her title. They let her keep it like a participation ribbon. But they took everything else. Her Outlook calendar, blank. Her Slack notifications, dead. Her phone rang once, some intern asking for printer toner instructions. That was it. No direct reports. No responsibilities. No reason to speak in meetings, because she was no longer in any. On Tuesday, someone moved her nameplate to the corner desk. By Wednesday, it was replaced with a paper sign that read, temporary workspace. She told herself it was temporary. A reshuffling. An internal freeze. But by Friday, it was obvious. The exile wasn't a glitch. It was the design. They'd sentenced her to a professional purgatory. Alive, but erased. And the whispers, God, the whispers. Everywhere. She could feel them when she entered the break room, which now went quiet the second her heels clicked across the tile. She caught eyes darting away. Heard laughter shift into forced coughs. Watched people suddenly remember urgent emails when she stood too close to the coffee machine. Her work husband was transferred to a remote consulting role. She hadn't seen him since the meeting. He stopped responding to texts the day after it happened. probably on advice from legal, or maybe just raw self-preservation. And the worst part? She still didn't know who had tipped them off. She went through every text, every DM, every Slack exchange. She even confronted Mindy, who swore up and down she hadn't said anything. But honestly, Jane, maybe lay low for a bit. Lay low. She wanted to scream. She'd built this place, at least in her head. She was the one who brought in the biggest contract of Q2 last year. She was the one who organized the company retreat, who ran the mentorship lunches, who moderated the panel on ethics and corporate culture, the irony of which now sat on a plaque above her monitor like a cruel joke. Now, the interns avoided her like a bad smell. She emailed HR twice. Polite inquiries about clarifying her new role and eagerly contributing where needed. Both times, she got the same generic reply. Thank you for your message. At this time, the leadership team is still evaluating future structuring and will advise staff accordingly. No signature, no name, just a placeholder reply from a faceless system she used to run like a playground. At home, she tried to act normal. Set dinner out, lit a candle, tried small talk. He didn't bite. He was polite, not cold, but distant, cordial, like someone thanking a cashier. She asked, casually, "Do you know anything about someone messaging my company?" He looked up from his plate and said, "No idea." "What?" She blinked. "Well, just something must have happened. I'm getting treated like a leper over there." He shrugged. "Maybe someone saw your post. People talk." She tried to laugh. "Come on, you don't think someone actually reported it, right? That would be insane." He just smiled and said, "Would it?" Then he cleared the table. She watched him move through the kitchen, calm, composed, detached, and a new feeling bloomed inside her gut. Not guilt, not regret, dread. Because for the first time in her career, she wasn't in control of the narrative. And whoever was pulling strings from the shadows, they weren't done yet. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Mascara streaked down her face in 2 perfect tracks. Her bag hit the floor with a thud, and she didn't even bother taking off her heels before storming into the living room like a woman on fire. You're sick," she snapped, voice already cracking. "Why would you do this to me? What kind of man?" He looked up from the couch. Calm, remote in hand. TV paused mid-baseball game. He didn't flinch. "Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about," she said, pacing. "You think you're punishing me? You think this is justice? You're blowing up my life over a caption. A damn hashtag. Still, no reaction." Her voice broke. "It was a joke. You know it was a joke. I didn't mean any of it like that. You know how Mindy is. She dares me to do stupid things, and I was just trying to be funny." "You're not funny," he said quietly. She stopped pacing. "I made a mistake," she said, softer now. "Okay, I admit that. But this is cruel. The office, the silence, the way people look at me. I don't even know how they found out." "You do." She blinked. "What?" "You know exactly how they found out. You're just afraid to say it out loud." That shut her up. He stood, walked past her to the hall closet, retrieved a plain manila envelope, and handed it to her like he was passing a receipt. She opened it slowly, confusion knitting her brow. Her breath caught on the first page. Divorce papers. Notarized. Signed. Behind them, a full asset breakdown. Line by line. Account balances. Transfer records. Deeds. Trust funds. And tucked in the back, stapled with a yellow tab, was a single-page affidavit, signed and witnessed. From her coworker. Not the work husband. A different one. A woman. One who had apparently grown tired of the charade. The statement was damning. They've shared rooms at 3 conferences. She told me she thought her husband was too passive to do anything. She laughed about it once and said, "He's not going anywhere. He needs me more than I need him." Jane's knees buckled slightly as she read. She didn't cry. Not yet. Just sat slowly onto the edge of the coffee table like gravity had doubled around her. He remained standing. Distant. "I've retained a lawyer," he said flatly. "The papers are filed. All that's left is your signature." She shook her head. "We can fix this. Please. You know me. You know me. This isn't us." "No," he said. "It's you. It's always been you." Tears now. Real ones. Ugly sobs. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back like her skin might burn. "I swear to you," she said. "I never meant to hurt you. I never meant for any of this. But you did." His voice was ice. You just thought I wouldn't do anything about it. I can change, she whispered. No, he said. You can't. But the locks will. And with that, he walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, poured himself water like he'd just taken out the trash. She stayed sitting there, surrounded by documentation that laid her future out in numbers, bullet points, and sworn testimony. He didn't yell, didn't gloat. That would have meant giving her something to react to. And she craved that. She was used to messy endings. Fights, tears, something to argue over. But this was clinical. He hadn't just left her. He'd erased her. Strategically, permanently, and worst of all, quietly. She walked into court like it was a negotiation. Pencil skirt, muted lipstick, a binder full of color-coded tabs, red for assets, blue for alimony, yellow for non-negotiables. Her expression was calm, almost smug, like a woman preparing for a mildly inconvenient business lunch. She'd even brought her court bag, a beige designer tote she used in depositions to project control. Authority. Her attorney, a man with the personality of skim milk and the rates of a surgeon, whispered something about strategy. She nodded. She thought she still had cards to play. Then the judge walked in, and the first page of the docket hit, like a shovel to the chest. The financial separation? Already done. Accounts closed. Transfers logged. All within full legal rights, because every move had been executed before she even realized the marriage was over. Her husband had filed everything 3 weeks ago. He'd listed irreconcilable breakdown of trust and had attached 2 key exhibits. Her original post with the work husband, an internal HR memo from her company summarizing a breach of conduct investigation involving her behavior at 3 off-site events. Her lawyer visibly flinched. Jane whispered, "How did he get that?" The judge adjusted her glasses. "Your employer provided the report voluntarily, given that the information had become publicly associated with their brand." Translation: she'd embarrassed the firm badly enough that they were now actively cooperating with the man divorcing her. Loyalty only went so far when LinkedIn and Reddit threads had started overlapping. Then came the property records. She was expecting a 50-50 fight. Instead, the deed to the summer house was presented, cleanly reassigned to his name. Legally binding. Dated 2 days before she'd even made the infamous post. "But I live there too," she said. Her voice cracked for the first time. The judge glanced over her glasses. "You live there. You didn't contribute to its purchase, maintenance, or upkeep. Your name was never added to the deed." She tried to speak again, but her lawyer squeezed her wrist under the table. It got worse. Her attempt to claim spousal support fell flat. The financial disclosures showed she had out-earned him for years, until the recent incident. Now, she was the liability. The judge, firm, unmoved, read through every line like a machine. "Given your current employment status and the nature of your professional demotion, we find no sufficient basis for spousal compensation. Furthermore, the evidence provided reflects a pattern of misrepresentation and personal misconduct during the course of the marriage." Misconduct. The word echoed like a gavel itself. Jane's jaw tightened. She leaned into her lawyer. "What the hell is happening?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know. He was 3 steps behind and 15 grand too late. She tried to object, to explain. She even tried to cry, but none of it stuck. None of it mattered, because every piece had already been placed on the board weeks ago. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a closing statement. She lost the lake house. She lost access to the shared investment account. She lost half of the furniture she thought she'd get by default. The only thing she gained was clarity, and it came in the form of a final line item on the docket. Non-disparagement clause, mutually binding. Any future public statements regarding the dissolution of this marriage must be reviewed by legal counsel prior to release. He didn't just take her assets. He took her narrative. The moment court adjourned, he shook hands with his attorney, walked past her without a glance, and exited through a side door like he was leaving a dentist appointment. She stood alone in the hallway, binder limp in her hands, the whisper of other attorneys echoing around her like buzzards circling a fresh carcass. And for the first time, truly, unmistakably, she understood. She hadn't just lost a marriage. She'd lost everything. The email came at 7:12 a.m. No greeting, no warning, just a subject line that folded her entire career into one final, clinical sentence. Organizational realignment. Final notification. She opened it in bed, still under the covers, hair matted, phone at 12% battery. At first, she didn't understand. The language was polite, too polite. Cold silk. PR sanitized. After careful evaluation, we've determined your current role no longer aligns with the company's evolving leadership standards and organizational values. Your severance package has been processed and is attached herein. We thank you for your contributions and wish you the best in your future endeavors. Below that, a PDF labeled Final Statement plus Transition Materials. She opened it with shaking hands. Page 1 detailed her severance, reduced, prorated, pending an NDA. Page 2 was a drafted press release. Company announces leadership restructuring and renewed focus on integrity. Her name wasn't mentioned, but her absence would scream louder than any inclusion. Her phone slipped from her hand and landed on the floor, screen still glowing. She didn't cry. She just sat there, hollowed out. Everything she built, every deal, every dinner sacrificed, every birthday missed for a client emergency, all reduced to a bullet point in someone else's press kit. Out back, he knelt in the garden. He didn't look rushed, didn't even notice the clouds moving in. He was planting hydrangeas, one careful hole at a time, knees in the dirt, breathing deep, slow and steady, like a man who no longer had to brace for anything unexpected. He didn't check his phone. He didn't need to. The final move had already been played. No spectacle, no victory lap, just peace. Because this was never about public revenge. Not really. It was about restoration. And finally, after all the lies, gaslighting, and corporate varnish, the silence was his. You know, sometimes the worst kind of betrayal isn't the cheating. It's the smug certainty that there will be no consequences. This story hit hard because it's not about rage or revenge porn. It's about reclaiming dignity with quiet precision. You don't have to scream to win. Sometimes, the cleanest cut is the one they never see coming.